Hello everyone, Paul here. We wanted to let you know that in this episode, you may notice an audio edit. This is because during this episode, we discuss a part of indigenous spirituality and culture, reading a document that appropriated the name of a spirit that in Coast Salish tradition is thought to be very dangerous. As such, many indigenous people believe speaking this spirit's name can be irresponsible and a harbinger of evil, and do not discuss this spirit outside of their tribal nations. Out of respect for the Coast Salish community and their beliefs, we made the decision to censor the audio. Thank you. Hello, my name is Paul Rustin. Since 2002, there has been a dash of child killings in the timber town of Brush Creek, Washington. Along with Brush Creek native and North Point reporter Tracy Forth, we take a look at the dark history of Brush Creek and find a more harrowing and mysterious story. From North Point Media, this is the Timberline Reports. All right, Tracy, how's it going? It's been a couple weeks since we last spoke.
Yeah, it has been an insane couple of weeks, hasn't it? I've been going nonstop for sure.
So for our listeners, in between our conversation 2 weeks ago and today, there's been a couple of intriguing developments. Hank Clemens was released on bail, and then it was found out that his toxicology report was in fact tampered with, and he never at any point had hallucinogens in his system. And, in addition, the mayor was accused by a member of his staff to have been the one who ordered the toxicology report be altered. He has now stepped down, and Tracy, your father has been named interim mayor?
That's correct. My father is now acting mayor of Brush Creek.
So can you give us what you know about the situation?
Honestly, quite little. I think my job as a journalist definitely feels like a conflict of interest for my dad, so he hasn't shared much himself. But there still is a lot of information that is public that's worth noting. Mrs. Clemens paid Hank's bail, and they hired a good attorney from Seattle. That attorney was able to request the toxicology report to have it reviewed by their own medical professional, who asserted that he believed the report was altered or forged. Around that same time, the mayor's secretary reported to the Valley Herald and the sheriff's office that she overheard the mayor's phone call pressuring the medical examiner to forge the positive test for LSD. She said, while she is no fan of Mr. Clemens, she believed the mayor was abusing his power, and Mr. Clemens didn't deserve to go down for that, especially with what has happened to his family. So Hank is in the clear, and Mayor Dickens is out. Crazy. But there still remains a lot of division in the community about what Hank Clemens actually saw and what the next steps should be.
So yeah, Mr. Clemens claimed that some kind of wild, feral, human man thing killed his daughter, and you said that you think he did see something, and there is more background to what he saw.
I do. In fact, despite all the craziness with the revelations about the mayor, I have focused more on researching Hank's account and piecing together some things from Brush Creek's history.
Okay, then let's dive in. Where did you start?
I started with a report from the camp in 1978. Do you recall the anecdote I told about the camp ghost story with the angry squatter who haunts the camp and leaves dead animals?
Yeah, I remember that, yes.
We called him the Timberman, but I think originally old staff called him the Klamath Man until it was realized that that was pretty culturally insensitive. The legend was passed down from camper to camper, and I knew people who said they saw him or that he left a rabbit on their cabin porch. But I never experienced anything. I just thought it was a story until I came across this newspaper clip. So that camp ghost story actually has a basis in a real event. In the summer of 1978, the Brush Creek sheriffs were called out to the camp to respond to a cabin of campers and two staff who claimed they saw something strange moving around their cabin at night, only to find a set of gutted animal carcasses strewn in a circle in the tree branches around their cabin.
What?
Yeah, I can read you the newspaper clip on the incident. I found it in the library. Sheriffs responded to a call from Camp Henderson Tuesday night regarding strange animal activity. 2 camp staff and 7 campers stated that they were awoken by a whistling howl outside their cabin at about 10:45 p.m. As they looked out the window, they could see tree branches being pulled and swayed, and continued to hear what one of the staff described as a dog trying to howl through broken teeth. The howl whistled and rattled like when the wind whistles through the trees in a winter storm. It was unlike any sound I'd ever heard, and it terrified us. The campers and staff said this went on for 10 or so minutes before it fell silent. One of the staff stepped out onto the cabin's porch, and that's when he saw 7 animal bodies hanging on branches. The staff member then stated he saw something crawl down the trees to the forest floor, where it snapped its head to look at him, and he was met with a pair of large milky green eyes reflecting back at him. 2 campers said they saw the eyes as well, and they began to scream. The camp directors were then quickly on site, and the sheriffs were called in. After investigating, the sheriffs believe it was likely a young bear or bobcat, attempting to protect their food from other predators by vocalizing and taking their food into the trees. The campers and staff were moved to a new cabin unit, and no other incidents occurred.
Wow, that's pretty creepy. That makes my skin shiver a little bit.
There's actually more to it. It goes back deeper. I was able to get the library to open up their copies of the county records for Brush Creek, and I ran across this story that has some pretty startling similarities to the 1978 report.
Okay.
Remember in our first conversation how I mentioned the legend of a man that had staked a claim to that parcel of land Camp Henderson is on, way back in 1930?
Yeah, I remember. When he was forced to sell the land, it was said that he went mad and killed his family.
Yeah, well, I found actual warrants for his arrest. He actually existed.
No way, are you serious?
His name was Randall Logue. He worked for the English Brothers Timber Company until he set out on his own and laid claim to Seat Mountain, which became part of the Camp Henderson parcel. In 1930, the federal government bought the deed to the land and evicted Randall Logue. In response, the police warrant states he became enraged and stated he would ensure the land would remain his. When the police returned the next day, they found Logue had drowned his daughter before brutally murdering his young wife by gutting her with a hunting knife. In the police records, it said he took both of their bodies and split their rib cages apart and posed them in praying positions in the tree line. Afterwards, it was described that he evaded authorities out in the woods and would leave eviscerated animals on the property to taunt them and to try to scare off would-be buyers of the land. The warrant for his arrest was never served.
Damn, what the hell? So there are multiple instances on county record of eviscerated animals and apparently humans as well? I'm sure Randall Logue wasn't part of the camp lore.
No, but I think he inspired whoever the Timberman was. It appears to be a copycat crime.
But how could this all be connected to the two child murders? Obviously, a killer from 1930-something wouldn't be responsible for Sam Lawrence or Marie Clemens.
No, most definitely not. But the physical trauma to the victims is replicative of both the description of the wife and child's wounds from 1930, and you see similarities with the gutted animals from 1978. That, plus the general locations of the woods surrounding Camp Henderson, I think there is someone who's aware of the 1930 murders, and he has taken on the figure of Randall Logue, which became the Timberman in 1978. To terrify the town. That's the best and most logical possibility.
So there's no ghastly werewolf ghost axe murderer prowling the forest?
No. But I think that the Timberman story holds some kind of power, an ancient dark sway over the person who is emulating the story.
Not to be direct, but that sounds a little sensational for your brand of journalism, and also given what you just said.
Let me finish. I also think that Randall Logue and his protege today took on an ancient indigenous legend and have followed it to violent ends. Randall Logue left a manifesto in 1930 after his murders. I believe that it inspired the Timberman story and thus today's child killings.
And I'm guessing that you have that manifesto.
I do. It reads, "This land belongs to me. It is mine, and I own it. Those who step on its bounds will belong to me. I have become great in power from my axe. You will not defy me. My voice will speak and ruin your mind. You will fall before me and my power. Your blood will feed my bones, and I will walk this land as its great master for all time. The trees will tremble and bend to my will, for I will be head above them. From the depths of this earth I mantled on myself, through bloodletting, a spirit that the savage race call, and we are now one. I am the devourer of souls, the flayer of thought. From me your bones shall break, and what is precious to you will fill the spaces between my teeth. I will fill your fear of the night with the death of living creatures until I take you and make you mine. I will possess your hearts and feed upon their rotting flesh. Know me, for I am, and flee before me, land and my power."
Okay, so this guy went really to the farthest extreme. So what does he mean by I am?
I had to do some really serious digging into this. What Randall Logue is referring to, I believe, is the indigenous belief in what is commonly called Sitko, a dark spirit to several tribal nations. Logue uses what is considered the true name of this entity, which in most local tribes is considered to be dangerous to use because it will bring the Sitko upon you. From some research, I also found one book that accounts that a Sitko is the spirit of a person who has committed evil acts and is banished to dark places of the earth.
Well, Randall Logue certainly fits that description.
It seems to me that Randall either thought he could use this legend to inspire fear and keep people off his land, or actually came to believe the legend itself and attempted to gain supernatural dominion over the land by committing the murder of his family. In 1931, the chairman of the Brush Creek Reservation warned the sheriff not to pursue Randall Logue since, and I quote, "A white man who would blindly bind himself to that power will open an evil as insatiable as the Christian devil to the world, and it would be wise to not avail oneself to that darkness."
So you think this guy, Randall Logue, basically appropriated this belief and killed his wife and daughter in a sacrifice to gain some sort of power to retain what he saw as his land?
Yes, and I think that someone has, since 1978, been following his footsteps and has been killing animals and children in either worship of Randall Logue or the Sitco itself, and has lost touch with reality and become more animalistic in their behavior. And that person is the Timberman. This person has become so far gone and so shocking in their acts that people respond to the Timberman as something paranormal.
So what's next then?
We have to search out the Timberman.
This concludes the first half of the Timberline Reports. Thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned for more episodes. This has been a production of North Point Media.